Hello and welcome to day 5 of the Upstream Digital Transformation Conference, our final 2 sessions. For this first one, we have Karen Foster, General Manager for Upstream Data Excellence at Shell, and Corrina Vos, Program Manager for Digital Transformation Upstream at Shell. So two points from me before we start. Just to make sure that people can hear us, if people could just click the raise hand button, just to make sure that people can hear us. And the second point is just about questions. You can submit your questions through the questions panel, which through the Brother app, I think looks like a speech bubble with a question mark in it. So you can submit your questions there and we'll come to those at the end. Okay, great. I'm getting some raised hands, so I think people can hear us. So that's it from me then. I will hand over to Karen and Corrina.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. My name is Corrina Vos. This is Karen Foster. Karen has a geology background. Obviously, Charlie's introduced myself, and I'm a reservoir engineer by background. We wanted to articulate that our background is in the business. So we are currently leading the change in the business in digital and data for upstream in collaboration with our IT and digital partners. So we are not AI specialists, but we like to bridge the gap between the two. So as an organization, you may or may not have seen in strategy day that was released yesterday for Shell, we're in the midst of rapid change, and we believe that digitalization is part of that rapid change, not just for us as a company, but for the industry as a whole. And that this rapid change will have significant impact on the energy systems that we use today. Already, digital technology is making our existing assets much more efficient. But this hasn't been easy. So many of you will have read on the conference website that BCG's theory is that companies that have successful digital transformations, it's 10% of the effort is delivering algorithms, 20% is building data platforms, and 70% is in change management. This statement definitely resonates with what we have learned here in Shell and what we've seen as the challenges for delivering this digital transformation in our business. But today we're going to talk about implementing Shell's digital journey within the upstream business and why we firmly believe that it is the key to unlocking the success in our future within our workforce, within our stakeholders, and within our strategic alliances. We think that we can make this a successful journey. And we all deliver more efficiently when we collaborate, build on each other's strengths, and learn from each other, both as colleagues and as collaborators.
Thanks. We're obliged to show the cautionary note. I shall move on. Before we go into the main body of the presentation, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't reflect on the events of the past year and really their impact on the lives of all of us here in this session today, and on the wider organisations. You know, COVID has disrupted the world in so many ways, which we hopefully will only experience once in our lifetimes. And the consequences, of course, are enormous. I mean, first and foremost, absolutely, it's humanitarian tragedy. And of course, it's had a massive impact on economies, companies, and people's livelihoods. But in many ways, you know, digital technology has become an increasingly critical enabler for business continuity throughout this extended time of crisis. I think, like many of you, or most of you even, both Corrina and I have been working from home alongside our 83,000 colleagues. And I think, you know, as office workers, this transition was relatively easy. But for our colleagues with boots on the ground, actually the change has been much more profound, as you can well imagine. And I'm sure that your own organisations are experiencing similar things. But what we're seeing is our inspectors are now completing safety rounds from the comfort of their kitchen table, and that's all assisted by robots. We've got experts assisting technicians by looking over their shoulders because of augmented reality embedded in helmets. And remote inspection is eliminating the need for travel. And I think these are all massive shifts in how we're operating our business. And if we go to a very specific example, we're deploying robots to help keep our people safe and out of harm's way. Engineers are using a remote controlled vessel in the Norwegian Sea, and that's 120 kilometers from land, and that's to inspect the Ormen Lange gas field. In previous years, the crew of an adapted fishing trawler went out to sea and collected data from sensors on the seabed. But now our engineers are doing inspections from their homes in Dublin, doing nothing more risky than clicking a computer mouse. And the robot's satellite broadband connection and video camera let the experienced mariners take the helm using a computer-generated joystick. And that's all within the restrictions of lockdown. Now, at the gas field itself, the robot communicated with the acoustic modems of the seabed sensors looking for actual possible subsidence. And the data reached the geophysicists working in Texas long before the robot returned from its 3-day mission. And that was just in April of last year. And I mention this example because this experience has actually really won hearts and minds. And we talk a little bit about transformation and having to reach people and how the culture change is one of the biggest aspects of digital transformation. And when people actually see examples and hear examples and feel examples like this, we go from knowing about technology to actually using it. And I think what we've experienced in 2020 was that suddenly we had to improve communication and data visibility, not only between onshore and offshore, which was what we'd all anticipated as being our critical gaps, but actually from home office to kitchen table, from my desk to Corrina's desk in our houses. You know, our digital product development has had a profound impact on our possibilities to work virtually. And again, that's really made it a lot more real for everybody in our workforce. And I'm not going to pretend that product development throughout the time of COVID has been easy. There have been real challenges throughout the last year, but the critical need has become so much more apparent and a whole lot more relevant for actually a much wider community.
So if we take a step back away from the urgency of COVID and reflect, Shell has long been recognized and for their technology advancements, and they themselves have long recognized the importance of technology and has used it to create a competitive edge. But we are currently at the tipping point of exponential technological advancements. In the coming years, the Internet of Things will consist of trillions of sensors, all generating and sharing data. This creates unparalleled connectivity, providing a wealth of data. Aggregating data from diverse sources will enable better decision-making and deliver huge competitive advantage. Digital technologies drive cost efficiency, provide new revenue opportunities, and they change business models. They're redefining the oil and gas industry, and we're seeing this in our strategic alliances. For example, we have a memorandum of understanding with Equinor, whom you've heard from this week. So this memorandum is on digital collaboration to develop solutions and methods together through the exchange of expertise within areas like data science, artificial intelligence, and 3D printing. This collaboration is expected to entail a co-innovation across the whole value chain, such as maintenance, production, optimization, and supply chain management. Such collaborations are increasingly important to strengthen safety, reduce carbon emissions, and realize value across the entire value chain for us as a business and society as a whole. For example, machine learning and artificial intelligence are already automating and optimizing operations, things like Karen had mentioned before through the COVID innovation. Through our operations, we'll be able to anticipate and autonomously manage conditions, transforming maintenance and operations efficiencies and keeping people safe. Today's reservoir models, so if we go back to underground, they're manually updated with seismic, drilling, and production data. So as systems become more integrated, reservoir models will be automatically updated in real time. So this will continuously improve our understanding of the subsurface, and it enables us to maximize the recovery of our existing fields and of those in the future. But we need to break down the silos between our data, our subsurface data, our wells data, And we're working to develop a standard data platform for the oil and gas industry to create an interface where software development can flourish. This is called the Open Subsurface Data Universe, otherwise known as the OSDU, and is being created in a forum that has been set up to develop the platform, and it's consisting of 160 members in this forum: oil and gas operators, software developers, many people on this call today, service companies, and others, to define an industry-wide standard for subsurface exploration, development, and wells data that will be delivered on an open source cloud-based platform. In addition to OSDU, we have opened what is called Studio X. It's meant to change exploration activities and how we do it today. It's an open innovation studio designed to reimagine research and development in exploration. It's a new endeavor fully owned by Shell, and it breaks down the current silos between internal, external experts in the exploration area. We apply a collaborative approach to innovation by bringing together these internal expertise, resources, and talent, looking for fresh perspectives on how to look at these exploration opportunities. It's called open exploration. And to date, the efforts have resulted in the launch of products called Seek, Excover, 6 Labs, and it's really creating the future of how we work in energy.
If we look at a much more direct level, we're taking a view of the end-to-end value chain, with really the objective to assess where digitalization can provide the biggest benefits to the business. And that's through perhaps improved efficiency or addressing what we refer to as key pain points in our processes and the ways of working. We've been doing this locally, and this is really around empowering local staff to look at their day-to-day work and really address observed issues through their own locally developed solutions. In doing so, the approach not only improves the day-to-day work of the frontline workers, but it really inspires and empowers them to have control to change the way they work. Globally, this allows us to take a bit of central oversight and see where there's possibility for replication from location to location. And sometimes that's appropriate and sometimes it's not, because they're local solutions for local issues. And we do that on a sort of case-by-case basis. The other angle from a global perspective is in skills perspective, the skills aspect. Because of course, our local teams don't always have embedded data engineers and these expert digital capabilities. So from a global perspective, we're able to bring in these skill sets and really develop a natural team so that we have the skills and the knowledge that we need to deliver these local solutions. As we've developed these local solutions, I think we need to recognise that there's often a skills gap and sometimes an interest and a knowledge gap. And let's make sweeping generalisations. There's a bit of a demographic in there. You know, if we look at our younger staff, our new grads, they're often very digital literate, digitally savvy, and very keen and eager to really improve the way they're working through digital developments. If we look at our more experienced workforce, there's sometimes a little bit of nervousness around it, or even reluctance, because quite honestly, they've been doing the way they work for quite some time. It's got them a long way, and they don't really see why things might need to change. And what we've been seeing is, right through this last year, through COVID and the need for different solutions, much more of our experienced workforce is also showing interest, that spark to self-develop and upskill themselves. And I think for us as an organisation, this has been another interesting time. You know, we've got many STEM background people in our organisation, and upskilling into data and analytics is both appealing and a sort of natural next step in development. So we have a digital centre of excellence, and with it, through that group, a strong core of learning materials has been developed. And because we're now much more virtual working, we've been able to roll out many more training possibilities through these means. But I think the other key reflection in this space was that a lot of our pre-existing material on digital and data upskilling had come from the IT realm. And, you know, as Corrina said, we're both subsurface technical backgrounds, and a lot of this IT talk was actually almost a different language. So we've been doing quite a lot of translation this year to make the digital and data materials for learning much more compelling for the people in the front line. And I think that's also helped in taking the next step in upskilling. Right, if we step now actually to our assets, Corrina mentioned that digitalization is embedded in how we optimize our assets. And this is about making them more efficient, but also around making the benefits much more tangible for our organization, because they're actually seeing firsthand what digital can do for them. If we look at the example on the left, we're going to talk about proactive technical monitoring. And this is around integrating people, process, and technology. And what we really strive to do through this is find small and fix small. And this really helps us to minimize our process safety risks and our reliability risks. And in 2019 alone, proactive technical monitoring helped us to deliver 130 million in additional revenue because of avoided production deferments and really maximizing availability and product quality. We're actually now enhancing this with artificial intelligence. And predictive maintenance is enabling us to leverage over 1.3 trillion data points through machine learning to detect anomalies. We're currently monitoring more than 2,500 pieces of equipment in our operating assets across our three main businesses: upstream, downstream manufacturing, and integrated gas. And that's using AI technology. And this is really helping us to maximize and optimize the performance of our assets. And this is obviously, interesting for us in terms of cash flow, but also critically in these times around reducing our CO2 emissions. And it's a really massive potential space for us. And you can see here that this work is the result of partnership with C3.ai. And you may have seen the press release last week on BHC3, which is an open AI energy initiative from Shell, Baker Hughes, Microsoft, and C3.ai. And this really strives to bring a core set of reliability solutions to improve operations uptime and plant availability through AI-enabled insights. And this really exciting development is designed to further the collaboration in digital development across the energy industry. Moving to the right to a different example, the digital twin. And you heard about this earlier in the week from Harvard, from Kongsberg during the data panel. And you may remember that a digital twin is a virtual representation of the physical elements and the dynamic behavior of an asset over its life cycle. We're rolling out digital twin technology across our assets through this enterprise framework agreement with Kongsberg. And it's really bringing in a new era to allow us to visually interact with our data and our models at an asset and equipment and component level. And this is really helping us drive efficiency by enabling remote operations, automation, and actually really helping us in collaborate. We currently have this live in the Nyhamna gas plant in Norway, and it's also live in Trinidad. We've got deployment underway in 4 other assets. Moving to the center panel here, this is really around the power of both internal collaboration and partnership between the business and IT, as well as bringing in skill sets from an external party, in this case, BCG. We developed this tool locally, and we refer to it internally as Optimax. And it's really a tool developed to specifically address local needs, as we described in the introduction. It's a data consolidation platform fundamentally, and it visualizes and optimizes upstream production from reservoir molecule right through to market, and actually in real time. And we're currently using this to live monitor our offshore wells in the UK North Sea, and we're starting to replicate it. What it does is centralize the data from the wells, the flow lines, the risers, the topsides, and it actually puts the power of the data into the hands of the upstream frontline workers to really help them to visualize and identify where we're diverting from the optimal operating limits. And that, of course, helps them to improve the optimization and the reliability of operations. And in turn, that reduces our deferment. It was developed in response to the recognition from the front line that at times we weren't communicating as efficiently as we could be. And that was from onshore to offshore. Now, of course, throughout the COVID period, this has become even more critical because that communication needed to happen onshore to onshore. And so the applicability, the usability of this tool became so much more relevant throughout this year than we ever actually imagined. And it's really providing just this visual understanding of the different parameters that we need to reach an assets production number. And it's allowing all of the people involved on those assets to really take simple and very impactful actions based on a strong and powerful data model with a single interface. And I think if we reflect on why this tool in particular has been adopted so easily, I think it's because the control room operators, who were really in the original design the ultimate customers of our data in this case, they steered the development of the solution through an agile approach. So they'd get an MVP, they'd see and say, okay, wouldn't it be great if, and then that was built into the next version. And that, agile development, that actual involvement has really built trust. And in turn, that's also accelerated delivery for this tool. The tool was also developed from directly from our data warehouse, and that really supports the potential replication elsewhere. And it also means that we could rely on the integrity and the quality of the data. And I'm not going to say it was perfect, but where we did identify gaps, it did mean that we had a massive incentive to really go back and check that data. And it also has strengthened the application of our global data governance, because it's really reinforced the need for consistent global definitions and proper data stewardship. And in this way, this tool development is really helping the global organization, because it's really providing a blueprint for the wider organization. And I think the more of these use cases that we tackle, the wider we'll cast our net, and we'll resolve more and more issues on a value-driven basis. And in this way, we hope that this will be a sort of organic growth that will enable the digital transition to keep growing and ultimately self-perpetuate.
So we've talked about some great examples of tools that we have, but really as an organization, we need to do change at scale. We're a global organization, and we can't just do it in one location. We're looking to inspire this change across the globe. Now, as an enterprise, we're learning to adapt and embed this technology at scale, and we're building the capabilities across the entire organization. Now, as they become core to our business, more and more people are curious, more and more new grads are curious as they come in, and it's really just, growing, as we're all seeing. So in 2013, a mere 7 years ago, Shell started the Shell.ai program. Now, it was set up to embed AI technology across all parts of our organization. What it is a network of staff who really are curious and want to learn about AI technology and how it can change the way in which they work. Many of them are citizen data scientists, people who have STEM, science background, and engineers, chemistry degrees, or people who are just inherently curious about it. These are the people who will make the difference in bringing these solutions to the front line, as exemplified in Optimax. They're the people who see the opportunities in the front line and how we work and how we can integrate with professional data scientists to develop innovative products that will change how we deliver value. This network now consists of over 5,000 people, and we're really seeing great things generate from it and a lot of excitement proliferating across the globe. It's not just about creating the space for creativity, though. It's also about leaders committing to our workforce that this is something that is important for them to build capability in. Eventually, everyone in the organization will be expected to have and learn and adapt and embrace new digital technologies. And to do this, leaders need to show the value in this and support it as a whole. And we're doing this through the Shell.ai program. At the beginning of the week on Monday, SEPSA presented that they were doing digital upskilling, and giving out backpacks and having Sherpas to show the value and visible leadership and how this is important. And the Shell.ai program is doing this through rewards and recognition and creating community around this exciting innovation. We've also partnered with Udacity to build a really coherent upskilling program to skill citizen data scientists, create certifications through them, and also professional data scientists, as well as engineers, giving them modern development skills that they need to build a professional digital product. It is paying off. And in 2019 alone, digitalization enabled more than $1 billion in cost reductions, production increase, and increased customer margins for Shell. This value will increase year upon year, and it's really exciting to see where it will go in the future. So you see, we are going through a transformation, as we all are. We're excited, the community is excited, and it's really curious to see where the capabilities will go and how they will be developing in the community that we're building. Our projects are already having impact, and the potential we have yet to realize in these emerging technologies and emerging fields of energy, it can only grow.
We wanted to take a moment to just reflect on some of the key enablers as we have been going through this journey. And Corrina and I are going to share this one, but me with my Upstream Data Excellence hat on, I really felt the need to mention that the data really enables digital. And I've been talking to a few of the cohorts at this conference this week. I was talking to Benjamin, who's on the panel next. Data is just not sexy, and it doesn't get people excited except for the real, the true data folk. And if I think back to Jan from Wintershall in the data panel, reflecting that we need to have infrastructure before we can do other things, but that most people just aren't excited about the infrastructure, the motorways as he referred to it. But fundamentally, data sits at the heart of our digital initiatives. And if we really want to leverage our data rapidly and at scale, it's just got to be accessible and of high quality. And of course, that sounds immensely simple. And I think every one of us in this call probably knows it's anything but. There's a lot of heavy lifting. It's complex at times, and it requires commitment and dedication to go after this and to subsequently maintain it. So, we're working to develop a structured approach to our data and platforms, where we're really working to make sure that we have proper data governance in place, data stewardship, and ensuring that the deeper levels of infrastructure, such as the cataloging, the master data management, in order to make sure that our integrated data platforms can actually be connected, are actually all in place. And yeah, I think that this has been an area of significant effort in the past years in Shell, and I don't doubt for 1 second it will continue to need to be.
Yeah. The next is culture and learning. I think, we've spoken about culture and how different people get on to getting excited about learning about AI and digital at different times. But like Karen mentioned at the beginning, we're in a great place where people see the need. They felt the need for this learning through COVID. And, as we move through the energy future, as we're powering progress and changing the ways we work, the curiosity is only going to grow. It will also grow when people tangibly feel the benefits of the changes that they've made. And this has only started. So we are developing the culture of curiosity and learning. Like I mentioned before, we're working with Udacity to build those in-house capabilities. And like was mentioned yesterday by Petrofac, we're looking to have an energy workforce, not just an oil and gas workforce. So transitioning these will require, upskilling, realizing what we do have and doubling down on what is really going to be useful, and then also creating focused upskilling in areas that we need. So we're working with Udacity to support these needs. So we're doing nano degrees for some of our experts to deepen their knowledge and to keep up with the latest technological advancements in their field. But you also need access to talent. And top tier artificial AI talent is in short supply. So we're not just building this capability internally, we're hiring talent from globally recognized institutions and companies. We work together with leading universities and technology companies from small startups to big corporations like Microsoft. We've also launched a Shell.ai residency program. It's located in India, America, United Kingdom, and the Netherlands. It's a 2-year full-time program that allows a data scientist and AI engineers to gain experience working on a variety of projects across all of Shell's businesses. Our global reach and our hub strategy also gives us huge flexibility in allowing these people to work on projects from all across the globe while staying in their base country. All of these programs that we talk about are underpinned by our strategic alliances, collaborations on AI platforms, seeking the best technology to support our operations, and learning from each other. From a rapidly evolving landscape through our cross-industry alliances, they just support us in our evolution. So to conclude, driven by major forces in energy transition and digitalization, we'll likely see the remaking of the energy system over time. Our deep understanding of the energy system and our affinity for technology, learning and partnering, it really enables us to drive towards a really exciting future.
So I think if we were to wrap up here, our reflection is that we need to change because the world is changing. And as an industry, we can be much clearer about where we do and where we don't compete, because that will allow us to standardize and to co-innovate where we can. For example, in the area of data formats and cloud-based sharing. And this is where the key strategic alliances that we've mentioned today, as well as the others that we've not, all these collaborations and partnerships, they're just coming into their own to deliver strength. And I think that can illustrate that we as an industry can innovate together to deliver new solutions. And I think we can't ignore the cultural shift that we're experiencing internally. And, we have to acknowledge that we need to have much stronger collaboration across our own business, our functions, and with our IT groups to deliver these innovative solutions, to provide that inspiration to keep fueling the momentum. And that's also around the upskilling of our citizen developers. And, we're not going to pretend this is very definitely a journey, but we are making great progress, and it is actually really exciting to be part of it. So yeah, we see collaboration as a vital enabler. It's going to help us move forward. That's within our company, but crucially cross-industry, to leverage each other's strengths and just to accelerate in these times of change. With that, we'd like to thank you for your time, your patience in listening, and we'll open for questions. Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Corrina. Very interesting presentation, I thought, and we have got a few questions that we can run through now. So perhaps starting with this one, just asking whether it's the idea to keep all digital initiatives under one banner, or to encourage groups and individuals to develop independently. There are potentially benefits to either approach. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Internally, we have an approach of both, in fact, and I think that's probably where the question's heading, alluding to both local development versus global development. And we acknowledge that we actually need to have both aspects, because each of our core assets has its own pain points, its own things that need to be addressed in developing digital solutions. And what we don't want to do is try and force fit one solution for everything. But of course, certainly things like data infrastructure, certainly some of the larger platforms, the more strategic direction tools, they have to come from a global. And so we do have both. And I think I also have to acknowledge that sometimes brings attention. It's not always straightforward as to say, hey, look, it's clear this part is global, this part is local. And yeah, that's something that we're learning and developing too. Corrina, anything to add?
I think too, Shell has multiple businesses. And so, while you might see the Shell products we have subsidiaries that are developing their own products that won't be branded as Shell as well. So in case that was the question that was coming.
No, thank you very much for that. So there's a question here. I just to rephrase it slightly, but asking about being ahead of the curve in digital, and I suppose Shell, is potentially, quite, potentially one of the sort of leaders in this area. I suppose how much does that matter, perhaps for other operators that aren't leading the field so much? I suppose how do you measure that, and I suppose does that matter?
I think you need to start. I think you could look at different areas of our business and say these are leading and these are not. I mean, leading is all relative. I think what needs to really be there is understanding where your business needs it, going to the highest value place, understanding what is needed to close that gap to what that business needs, and then working with the people who understand what that gap is the most to bring the right solution to those people, so that it's not an add to how they work, it's changing how they work to deliver the value. Because at the end of the day, we're not here to build new technologies for new technology's sake. We're here to drive innovation, to drive value as a business. And so as long as you really focus on what that is, it doesn't matter if you're in the front runner and you have 5,000 tools. If you just need 2 in the right place to really deliver that business value, that's what you should be doing.
Okay, great. And there's sort of a related question here, asking about how you can focus on the most high impact areas. Perhaps again, thinking about a player in the market who wasn't so far down the digital transformation journey. What are potentially good areas to start, sort of high impact areas to start?
That's a fun one. I can only reflect on the journey that we've been through, which is, as we said, going out and actually speaking to the people at the front line and understanding where they were observing major inefficiencies. And that of course is subjective, as Corrina mentioned just now. But what you do quickly find out is that if people at the front line are experiencing frustrations, or they're observing that things don't go as smoothly, that there's value in that space.
Yeah.
And we've also discovered that it's very much a step-by-step process, and often the value is much larger than you imagine it will be, because as you open the door and peek through, you soon discover that actually there are related issues in that space, and the overall process might just need a new way of working. And so I think what we have really learned is there's a lot more communication required and understanding locally what's required, rather than us sitting here neatly in our head office in The Hague, imagining that we know exactly what's needed at the front line.
Yeah, and if you can bring the digital lens to the people who understand the business and pair that up, it's amazing what can really be built.
No, great. And a slightly different one here. I asking about what Shell can do to potentially bring some of its partners along with it, perhaps sort of like well service companies and so on. And I suppose also is that something that Shell should be taking responsibility for? Is that Shell's place, or what would your thoughts around that question be?
If I reflect on the various platforms that we've just discussed today, the collaborative efforts that are ongoing, I think you'll see that increasingly Shell is externally focused in this space and looking to leverage and understand what partners can do. And that, of course, needs to go both ways in terms of how that door is opened, in terms of how that relationship develops towards delivering a shared product. I think there are several strategic alliances we've discussed today that you can see that is absolutely the intent. yeah, it's a journey as well. We're not complete. It's not that I could look and say, hey, look, we're done. We've got everything in place. And I expect that you'll be seeing more and more of these alliances being announced in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, and you know, like what was released last week with Halliburton, you know, we are working them. You look at Studio X, that is a completely open and innovation platform. You don't even have to be part of an oil and gas company to go work with Studio X. So there are these opportunities out there, and it's selective within how we're evolving, but you know, like we say, it's an evolution, and we'll see a lot more in the future.
Okay, no, that sounds great. There's one here asking about remote work for drilling specifically. Is that something that Shell are doing, or you know, is that something, you know, possible?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a specific example of remote work for drilling specifically.
I do.
Go for it, Corrina.
Yeah, so we have remotely steered wells in South America from North America regularly, and you know, you look at different reservoirs, and you can find a reservoir in South America that matches one. So say in Argentina that matches one in Canada, and so if you take people who had figured out how to drill effective wells up in those reservoirs, you can get them to remote steer wells in similar reservoirs in different continents. And we have been doing that for years. It's quite exciting, and you can get fantastic well results by doing it.
Okay, yeah, and this perhaps the last question that we've got time for. So I think you mentioned about with reference to accessing top talent, sort of getting talent on board via partners. Does that require a significantly different way of working potentially?
If I reflect on the work we did in developing the tool in the UK, that there was an element of a different way of working, but in a very healthy way.
Yeah.
Because the external partner brought a very different approach and truly agile way of working. And because we, Frontline, have not worked traditionally in an agile fashion, that was a spectacular learning journey for us. So yes, there's a different way of working, and that's a very positive experience for people involved, because that's a very exciting way of taking things forward. And again, it's new skill sets. So we had really positive experiences with that.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I think that's about all we've got time for now. So thank you very much, Karen and Corrina. Yeah, I think very interesting talk and a great penultimate session. We have got one left, so for attendees, if you would like to log out of this one now, and you can log into our next session, which is our panel looking at partnerships. So thank you again, Karen and Corrina, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.